Hello and welcome to Research Bites with LearnEd CPD, where we break down educational research into easy to digest bite-sized chunks. My name is George Anderson. I'm a wellbeing and performance coach, and today we're going to look at the book The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor. In this short video, we'll look at some of the key ideas from the book, how you can use those ideas in your own day-to-day life to give you the happiness advantage, and some suggestions for further reading as well. There are several key ideas in this wonderful book. The first and most important being that happiness actually comes before success rather than the other way round, which is how most people tend to view it. In the book, Shawn Achor posits that when we position our happiness or anchor our happiness to achieving certain goals and arbitrary and external measurements of success, because those goalposts of success keep moving. Once you've achieved one goal, then we just start striving towards the next one. Happiness is always over what he terms the cognitive horizon. What some of the studies have shown, and that's really what this book is all about, is that not only is that flipped 180 degrees around the other way, but actually, when we can tune our brains into a positive state, a happy state, it actually gives us an advantage with our performance, which then accelerates our road towards success. For example, there are a number of different benefits that we experience around our ability to manage stress, about our creativity, our speed of learning, our ability to recall information, all of which will be, I'm sure you can agree, will be very useful in any endeavor that you're trying to make progress in. So there are performance benefits of having this, what he calls a positive brain state, as opposed to a neutral or negative brain. And obviously it feels better as well. I'm sure we've all experienced the benefits in terms of how it feels of having that positive state and happiness as well. He talks a lot about the negativity bias, which is something that many people watching this video, I'm sure, will be familiar with. But this essentially is our tendency towards seeing the negatives in the world and all around us as well. So he talks about an experiment called, which gave us the wonderful term, the Tetris effect, where people played the computer game Tetris. I used to love Tetris when I was a kid, but you play it for long enough and all of a sudden you start seeing shapes all around you that look like those funny squares and the odd shapes that will just fit into perfect size holes in the ever scrolling background. And the studies went on to show that actually when we spend a lot of time looking at certain things, in this case Tetris shapes, we start seeing them everywhere. But the same thing is also true about how much exposure we have to negative things. If you watch the news, if you're exposed to media or even social media, then you'd be forgiven for thinking that the world is a terrible, horrific, very dangerous place. Of course, there are dangers out there, but there are also many positive things as well. And if we just expose ourselves to the negative, then we have this built-in and exacerbated bias towards seeing those things instead of creating more optimism, creating more hope, creating more enthusiasm, and a sense of safety in striving towards things that there is the chance of failing at. A lot of this comes down to another key idea in the book, which is that of neuroplasticity, which is our brain's ability to lay down and change neural pathways, regardless of our age. It used to be believed that, this is up until probably quite a few decades ago now, that once we reach the grand old age of our mid-20s, that was it. Our brains could no longer adapt, could no longer learn things, could no longer change. So whatever you had at that point in your life, that was going to be your lot. Whereas neuroplasticity studies have shown that we are still capable of changing, laying down these new neural pathways, which means that people who say, I'm just not naturally a happy person, there are no excuses, because everybody has the capacity to access this wonderful happiness advantage. And of course, neuroplasticity is also the absolute seat of all learning as well. So we know how important that is working in schools. But how can we use this information in our day-to-day? And I think this among many other books around personal development and neuroscience and psychology that I've read over the years. This is a wonderful book in terms of the practical, actionable advice and suggestions that it gives you. And probably nothing that I'm going to share here with you that is contained in the book is going to be really radical new information for you. But I think having it presented in a slightly different way, not just from me, but I'm passing on Shawn's advice here and his suggestions, which, by the way, his book also obviously is pretty awesome, but he also has a wonderful and very humorous TED Talk that's worth checking out as well. But these suggestions, when you think of them in the context of creating this happiness advantage, hopefully, if you're still on the fence about putting these into practice, this could be enough to nudge you over that edge. So the first one is to practice gratitude. And this is simply sitting down and thinking of 3 good things, not just thinking of them, but really reimagining 3 things that you have in your life that you are grateful for, and doing this on a daily basis, not just doing it once or saying, well, I'm kind of a grateful person. Thinking of these 3 things on a regular, aka daily basis, actually starts to shift your mindset towards positive, and you start seeing more things to be grateful for in your day-to-day life, the Tetris effect that we spoke about a moment ago. Number 2 is meditation. Really, this comes into the book, and his advice is to, doesn't have to be meditation, could be any kind of mindfulness practice, but something that helps us regain our focus, regain our attention so that we can focus on what's right in front of us instead of being continually distracted and bombarded by other things that are all around us. And our modern use of smartphones and other digital devices is really not helping with that. But we can push back against it through things like meditation and mindfulness. Journaling about the wins is another way that we can use this. And the idea here is that at the end of each day, you write down some of the things that you have actually accomplished, some of the things that you've done well. And by not just focusing on the things on your to-do list that you didn't get done or the mistakes that you made, which I'm sure we all have those mistakes and things that are left on the to-do list at the end of the day as well. But instead of just focusing on those, take some time to write down some of the things that actually you did do well, you did manage to accomplish, and really start to embed those senses, or that sense of accomplishment within you. Because again, going back to this happiness advantage, we're starting to shift our brains and our sense of self-efficacy. We're trying to shift our sense of positivity and optimism here up a few notches. It happens over a period of time. Hence, these are habits to embed rather than one-off actions to engage with. And finally, he talks about removing obstacles as well. He uses a few specific examples. One in particular, if you decide that you want to learn how to play the guitar because you think, well, that's going to be a good thing for me to do, I really want to do that, and I haven't actually managed to put it into practice yet, then look at what some of the obstacles might be that are stopping you from actually engaging in practicing, which is the way to learn, right? So if you find that you have to get the guitar out of the cupboard or out of another room in order to sit down and practice, invest in a guitar stand. So it's looking at getting upstream of the problem and finding ways to overcome some of those limiting factors, some of those obstacles, remove as many of them as you can. And finally, I said that last one was finally, this is the final one. There are many ways you can use this, by the way, but these are some of the top 5 that I've drawn out of the book, is to build in social support. And I think this is a really important one because it goes back to a lot of the other work that we know from positive psychology. And that really is what this book is based on. It's a real romp through the last 20, 30 years as positive psychology and research has shifted our attention towards how can we get better? How can we make ourselves more happier and more well, rather than just trying to eliminate and create an absence of illness or mental illness. And social support really comes in so many different ways and areas. So this could be sharing gratitudes with other people. It could be helping each other identify what some of those wins have been, or just doing anything at all that involves social support. Might be nothing at all to do with any of the things that we've covered today, but doing things with a team, doing things that make you feel like you're a part of something, has masses of potential in terms of giving you the happiness advantage. In terms of further reading, other things you might want to look at, obviously, The Happiness Advantage. If you haven't already read that, then go and get that one. Check it out. He's very funny. He's a great author. I do like his work. So The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor. Another book, which is all about positive psychology, is called Flourish by Martin Seligman. He's kind of the founder, if you will, of positive psychology. And another one, which is very different. It's a very different approach to happiness, a book called Solve for Happy by Mo Gawdat, who was one of the chief execs of one of an executive with Google right back at the beginning, or close to the beginning anyway. And through tragic circumstances, he was driven to find out what the definition or the equation for happiness is. So it's like a scientific and engineering approach to happiness. So some very different ideas in there, but some great ways to augment your learning, your understanding about happiness. But hopefully you've enjoyed and managed to get something positive from today's research bite. I hope that you have found this video useful. Don't forget, you can sign up to our mailing list. The link is below. And if you do that, you'll be the first to get your hands on our LearnEd research bites, our blog articles and new courses. And of course, you can visit the LearnEd website to find out more about our free and paid for professional development courses for teachers. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.